Chair, we are live.
Excellent. With that, we'll call to order the regular police accountability board meeting for Wednesday, June 26, 2024. To access this meeting remotely, join from a PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device using this URL listed below. If you do not wish for your name to appear on the screen, use the drop-down menu and click on rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raise hand icon on the screen. To join by phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 and enter meeting ID 826-5339-6072. If you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press star 9 and wait to be recognized. With that, I'd like to recognize our land acknowledgement and move it directly to the agenda item number 1, call to order, roll call.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, this meeting was called to order at 6:31 p.m. I will now proceed with roll call. Chair Moore,
Present.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Present.
Board Member Calavita submitted a leave of absence. Board Member Leftwich,
Here.
Board Member Blackaby also submitted a leave of absence. Board Member Cayetano. Present. And Board Member Moses also submitted a leave of absence. We do have quorum at 4 members. I'd like to recognize the staff that's present with us at this meeting. First, we have Director Aguilar from the Office of Director of Police Accountability. We have Investigator Wechter. We have our new ODPA intern, Chloe Park, and we have myself, Policy Analyst Murillo. On behalf of the BPD, we have Deputy Chief Tate and Officer, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Bonaventure. So I'm sorry, Lieutenant Bonaventure. Then on behalf of and then from the City Manager's Office, we have Dr. Arredondo and DEI Officer Rex Brown.
Thank you.
Mike went off for a moment, but again, we have Dr. Arredondo and DEI Officer Brown. And then at this time, DCA Chang has also joined their meeting. Chair, we have a quorum.
Excellent. That takes us to the approval of the agenda. Are there any items that we would like to adjust, change, move around, or delete? If not, I'd like to move forward with motion.
Did we end up formally pulling the SCU item? I saw the email about that, but did we need to do something here at this meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to defer item 9A to a board meeting in July.
I second that. Okay, and just for the record, because we are at quorum, all votes need to be unanimous. I'll start with Board Member Cayetano. Yes. Board Member Leftwich,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yes.
and Chair Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That takes us to agenda item number 3, public comment.
Sorry, Chair, we still need to formally approve the agenda.
Well, I apologize, it's wrong. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second. Okay, and are there any objections to that motion to approve the agenda? Okay, seeing or hearing none, Chair.
So this time, we're gonna go to public comments, agenda item number 3.
Okay, at this time, I'll proceed with public comment. Just a reminder, speakers are generally allotted up to 3 minutes, but may be allotted less time. If there are many speakers, they may comment on any matter within the board's jurisdiction at this time, except confidential personnel matters. With that said, I'll now proceed to those who are physically present before moving on to our virtual speakers. And just one moment while I get the timer on the screen. And the 3 minutes are done.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Pritchard. I work with Berkeley Complex. I'm here tonight because I thought that the SU was going to be discussed. I provided video to you and I canceled my plans for tonight so that I could be here with you. What this raises for me is yet again another incident in which accessibility or, what makes it nice to come here? You know? And it's kind of a pain in the ass to come here and to have things canceled. And it also raises me, I was here, last time I was here, and that the rules have changed. It used to be that with the police review board, every item was allowed that public comment was allowed on every item on the agenda. And I'm just curious, what are you guys gonna do to try to make this situation more accessible to marginalized communities who bear the brunt of police misconduct, who bear the brunt of these incidents? This is a completely inaccessible process. You know, it looks great, but it's just hard to access. I also want to talk about the SCU as long as I'm here, because the SCU is part of an overall reimagining process. And that process was supposed to be about reducing the footprint of policing in the city. It wasn't just about mental health calls. It wasn't just about substance use disorders. It was about anything that could be handled by a civilian, should be handled by a civilian. And when I look at the police budget that's gone up $6 million this year, and we see that the Community Services Bureau is expanded, who are those people and what are they doing? Oh, they're responding to non-criminal calls. And that's what the SCU was supposed to do. So I just want to put that back on your radar because they've really been trying to narrow and shade down what the SCU is supposed to be responding to. So in your inquiry, I hope I don't have to file a policy complaint for you all to dig into this, because it's a big issue. It's citywide. And the failure of this city to have a dispatch system that can actually direct calls to the SCU dooms the SCU. I also want to point out that every time I hear that there's a crisis in staffing in this town, as far as policing goes, I want to ask you, why would the city council last night approve the new forms created by the chief so that we can take our overworked and understaffed police department and provide private security to Apple Store on 4th Street? That what they've created is a process so that one-time events, recurring events, and even continuous events can be staffed by our police department. That's after their regular shift, after the overtime that they provide ostensibly to keep our cities safe, then they get to go out and moonlight. I'm a school teacher. I'm not allowed to have a second job because they expect me to show up fresh and ready to perform my duties to the best of my ability. What does it mean to have us farming out our police department? Like, who's getting the payoff? What is going on here? And I think that it would be one of you. I don't want to do your work for you. I don't want to set your agenda. I could if you want me to, or you could do it. I could file policy complaint after policy complaint, or you can lead your agenda. So you guys figure out what you'd like to do. Thank you for hearing all that.
Thank you. Seeing no other physical speakers, I'll now move on to virtual public comment. At this time, if you'd like to provide public comment and you're attending over Zoom, now is your chance to raise your hands. Again, if you'd like to provide virtual public comment and you're attending over Zoom, now is the time to raise your hand. Chair Moore, at this time, we don't have any additional hands.
Thank you, Jose. That takes us to agenda item number 4, approval of the minutes for regular meeting on June 5th, 2024. Board Member Leftwich, you're our anchor here. Is there anything in the meeting or the minutes that you'd like to?
I didn't see any issues. Thank you.
Can I get a motion? We got to vote on everything tonight.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second. Okay. Board Member Cayetano? Yes. Board Member Leftwich?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yes.
and Chair Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And that takes us to agenda item number 5. That will be the ODPA staff report.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair and board members, members of the public and colleagues. First, I just want to publicly apologize to our community member, Ms. Andrea Pritchett. I do apologize for the lack of communication on the item. I know that you were interested in it, and I recognize from our perspective, the office could have communicated that to you, so I apologize for that. We have a few updates for the office, and then I'll yield to my colleagues at the city manager's office. We have onboarded or is still in the process of onboarding, but she started a few weeks ago, an administrative analyst, Melanie Beasley. Her bio is in the packet. We also have our intern, Chloe Park, sitting next to board member Leftwich. I'll turn it over to her to say some introductory remarks. She'll provide a gentle update on what we're gonna be doing for the summer. And there is provided a memo regarding our trip. Board member Moses, who's currently on leave right now, and I went to the DC area. We had an eventful trip. We went for the George Mason University Center for Evidence-Based Crime Policy Symposium. They have it every 2 years. We had the opportunity to hear a lot of relevant research that it spans on a lot of different topics. Some SCU related research that's being done. And I know board member Moses will probably be providing some remarks when he returns. But if you have any questions about that, I can provide any information. The other gentle announcements, just making we discuss our training memo and bringing it back. I'm gonna bring it back once we are and the rest of the board members are here. I do anticipate it bringing it back next meeting. And also the other memo that the board asked me to revisit the chief contestation potential review process. We also just giving a gentle reminder, there's a NACO webinar, Constitutional Police Community Encounters. It's taking place tomorrow. And at this time, I'm going to allow our friends at the city manager's office to provide updates before I have our intern Chloe Park go over her project.
Thank you, Director Aguilar. As it relates to reimagining public safety, yesterday's city council meeting was very exciting. I want to say it was item 13 on the consent calendar was the approval of our contract with Live Free for the gun violence intervention and prevention program. So as of right now, we are currently moving through that contract process and finalizing it, hoping to start with Live Free in the summertime and start to roll out the gun violence intervention and prevention program model by fall in 2024. I just want to say thank you very much to the board as well as the Office of the Director of Police Accountability, folks that served on our gun violence intervention and prevention steering committee for the review, interview, and selection process. It was wonderful to be able to have a sort of engaged process through that. And, you know, this is a program that we want to roll out in partnership and in community. And with that said, I want to turn it over to my colleague Rex Brown if he has any comments. Not sure if he's on the call.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Carrie. And indeed, it was a long but very fruitful budget night at City Council last night. I am some of the items that the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office, my name is Rex Brown, by the way, DEI direct officer for the city of Berkeley. The items that we work on for grant writing for this upcoming budget is not an immediate tiered item. However, we are looking for those funds to continue writing for grant writing in the upcoming cycle. And right now, today we participated in mental health and wellness day at the uh, 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 adult mental health center, and we'll be participating in later events Friday and Sunday in the city of Berkeley. So back to you, Hansel.
Thank you for
And
the updates.
one thing, my apologies. I am actually between several different meetings and events, and so I will be actually exiting the call early, which is why I'm on virtual call today rather than with you in person.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Just a few more updates. It's kind of very fresh, so I'll try to provide a more thorough follow-up in the email. But last night, council met to discuss a few items of interest for the board. But in summary, for the budget requests that were made through our office and through the PAB, at least just 2 items will be funded, which is the training line item for both board members and staff, and for the adjustment for the new office location. But additional staff members will not be funded at this time. They would like us to bring back any needs that we have in the AEO period, where it should start around November, where they consider any adjustments to the budget. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Before though, I field any questions, I just want to open it up to our intern, Chloe Park, to introduce herself.
Hello, thank you for that. My name is Chloe Park. I'm a rising senior at UC Berkeley, studying urban studies and data science. I've grown up in the East Bay area, but recently I've had the experience of working within the city of Berkeley, mainly with District 7 and their legislative team. With them, I looked a lot into planning related legislation, and until about a year ago, where I pivoted my efforts towards an in-depth analysis of the Berkeley Police Department's traffic stop data available on the open data portal. With this research, I looked into mainly general demographics like race and ethnicity, city of residence, type and reason for stop, and search and seizure rates. And with this background, I'm excited to be a part of the Office of the Director of Police Accountability. This summer, Director Aguilar and I are working on creating at least a framework for a series of community forums to gain feedback about the use of force policy of the BPD, especially given that the annual review of the use of force policy is set to happen soon. Over the past few weeks, I've been familiarizing myself with the city charter, the police department's policy, and the general jargon of the PAB. And I've also been doing open source research on different stakeholders within the city and categorizing them by district of service. While we're getting the ball rolling on outreach, we're exploring different ways to structure the forums. But as of now, there will be 3 sessions, each with a specified theme revolving around use of force. With the information collected from these forums, I will hopefully assemble a report to aid in the review of the use of force policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And now, happy to provide any additional info that the board requests.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions from board members for the Office or the Director at this time?
Do you guys have a general timeline? Hi, nice to meet you, by the way. Do you guys have a general timeline for the forums? Will they be completed in the summer or the fall or the winter calendar year?
We're trying to accomplish at least one during the summer. I think doing all 3 might be a little bit ambitious during the summer. We also want to make sure that we can raise enough awareness about it where it'll be meaningful. So at least one.
Yes, I have a question too. I thought in the past we talked about doing community events around the release of our reports. And so are we pivoting now to use of force as a book?
No, we're not pivoting. So these are 2 separate tracks. Board member Blackaby is taking the lead on the outreach, and he's working behind the scenes to work with the chair and Board Member Kitty Calavita to organize those more topical. This is pursuant to a request from the board regarding when we did the last retreat, the board delegated the initial review of use of force to the office. So what we're doing is incorporating the community feedback. So when we give you a report, it will let you know what the community said, what our office reviewed in the policy, and then when you convene with the department, you can utilize that to ground your conversations.
Thank you.
I would just say, I thought, is there a separate agenda item on these community meetings or this was it?
There's an item for the July 18th community forum. So that one was specifically regarding the annual report. So that again came out of the retreat.
Okay,
And that was one of the organizations we initially reached out to. This was before the FIP report was completed. So the Hope Center invited the board or delegates of the board to go to their July 18th community meeting and present the report.
okay, which agenda item is that?
That is 9B.
Okay, I'll raise my comment then, thank you.
I don't see a 9B on the agenda. Am I missing it?
Yeah, it goes from 9A to 9C on what I'm looking at, but I know I saw something about this, so.
Oh, I'm looking at the agenda on the website, so I'm not sure if the printed agenda was different.
It's on there. 9B,
Under new business,
9B new business.
Okay.
Any other questions for the director at this time? All right, I'm not seeing or hearing any. I'm gonna move to agenda item number 6, which is chair and board member reports. I will be brief, per usual. I would like to say thank you to everyone who attended the Juneteenth festival in South Berkeley. The event was a success. I was very humbled and gratified at the amount of engagement that the whole community of Berkeley came out and represented. I felt like our office and, well, our board and the director's office made a great showing and represented. I again want to extend my thank yous to everyone who attended and supported. It's very important that the community saw us. I also want to let you guys know that I have seen Lucky the dog all over our community. And when I say that, I mean the little stuffed animal. It's everywhere. So kids and families alike are Lucky has been a hit. And if for those who aren't aware, we gave away stuffed animals that look just like our office member Lucky. So yeah, it was just a great event, and I wanted to make sure that for next year that we get so excited that we just get even more and more support for it. And that being said, that's all except for the June 5th meeting. I'd like to extend my thank yous for Vice Chair Wilson. She took the helm of the meeting when I was not able to be here, and I appreciate that. So that being said, is there any other board members who would like to say something? Now is your time. If not, I'm gonna rumble on. All right, that takes us to agenda item number 7, Chief of Police report. Chief, Deputy Chief?
Sorry about that, having some technical difficulties here.
No worries.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
I'd like to start, thank you. I'd like to start by sharing some info from the budget meeting last night that council formally adopted the biennial 25-26 budget. And that included funding for the purchase and implementation of an early intervention system platform. There's going to be a number of process steps that we have to go through, but work will begin shortly and we'll start collaborating. I mean, we have, but we are going to lean into that work through the board and board member Cayetano, as well as our police association, to ensure that we identify and implement a system that supports our shared goals and vision. To support this effort, the Berkeley Police Department will soon be formally announcing the establishment of the Office of Strategic Planning and Accountability, or the OSPA. The OSPA is composed of a dedicated manager leading a team of analysts and reports directly to the chief of police. The office will be led by Arlo Malmberg, who many of you already know, and he's going to serve as the strategic planning and accountability manager. The primary mission of the OSPA is to support the development of policies and strategies that promote equity, efficiency, and effectiveness in our public safety efforts. At the same time, the OSPA will focus on optimizing our operations, ensuring departmental accountability, and managing risk. And a primary initial process or project rather for this work will be the EIS project. And some other ongoing work. A few weeks ago, members of BPD met with the PAB subcommittee regarding BPD's vehicle pursuit policy. I was gone for a few weeks, so we had a little bit of delay in our collaboration there, but I'm back and we're looking forward to our second meeting tomorrow morning. And we're eager to continue that work to develop a policy that embodies best practices while prioritizing the safety of the community officers and offenders. A case of interest that came up on June 20th that I'd like to share is just before 5 a.m. that day, our special response team served a search and arrest warrant in Berkeley on behalf of our homicide detectives. The warrant was for assault with a firearm, among other charges. When they arrived at the residence, the SRT negotiators made phone contact with the subject who was being sought. However, he refused to come outside. They deployed sound light diversionary devices and continued to attempt to make contact through the use of a long-range acoustic device. And after about 20 minutes, the individual as well as two others came out of the residence with no further issues. The homicide detectives did recover an assault rifle and body armor in conjunction with that search warrant. I'd like to share also, I know that we've talked about ABLE training and we've talked about our work within BPD. And one thing that the chief had passed on from the last meeting was that there was an eagerness for us to find some dates and times that worked for us to provide sort of an overview of that training program with the use of some of our ABLE instructors. So I would like to invite anyone from the board to reach out to me via email so that we can coordinate that training, as I understand that there's a desire there. And that is all I have.
I'd like to open it up. Is there any board members who have questions? Board member Leftwich, please.
Yes, I just wanted to follow up on a comment that was made by a member of the public regarding city council's decision apparently last night about officers being used to guard Apple and I guess other private businesses. I just remember personally noticing that years ago and asking when I was on the police review commission about that, because I was kind of concerned about officers being taken away from the city, and now they're an even more scarce resource. So I just wondered if you could provide some more information about how officers are being used to guard private retail establishments.
Sure. So in the past, let me back up and say I'm not sure where the comment was. I don't think I heard the initial question, but just as far as our resources in the past, for instance, Apple had provided funding for us to have an officer sit down, more or less a dedicated officer as staffing allowed, and reimbursed us for the overtime for that individual sitting down there. At this point, we have not had the staffing to be able to support any of those efforts. So anything that we are doing is on behalf of the department and doing surveillance and whatnot. It is not at the direction of any of the individual entities seeking our assistance in coming out or providing officers on overtime to sit and watch. That's not happening currently just because of staffing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask about the EIS implementation. So does that mean the additional 100,000 that we recommended be included in the police department's budget was funded? Okay, that's great. And I also want to say appreciate this report, Deputy Chief. I like the format and not focusing on your staffing and recruitment efforts. So thanks.
No problem.
Quick question about the new office that the chief and the department are creating. When that is implemented, could we expect a presentation on what their functions and uses are and how that relates to our oversight and accountability that is established in the charter.
It sounds to me like you would like to have a presentation on that, so we could probably facilitate that.
Sure, I think that if there will be overlap in the types of things that we are, the subject matter at least. So I think it's important that we establish how we will interact and operate with them. And I think one thing, this is not knowing what the whole function and purpose is. I think that the policy subcommittee is really interested in having a dedicated partner from the department. So if that is something that that office can supply, then we would really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
I'm not seeing any other questions at this time, Deputy Chief, but I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and answer our questions and provide a report.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
You too. Take care. And that brings us to agenda item number 8, subcommittee reports.
Okay, and in consultation with the chair for tonight's subcommittee reports, is there any subcommittee that would like to volunteer? Or not necessarily volunteer, but provide a report for their actions. I know all the board members aren't here that have been working on some of the subcommittees, but the chair wanted to open up.
Yeah, I can report on a couple of them. The regulations subcommittee, since board member Calavita isn't here, we're going to be meeting with the labor negotiators again on July 3rd. We had one meeting already. It was very productive. It's a little hard to reconstruct some of what happened because it's been years now, but we were able to do it. Luckily, I took lots of notes, so I could go back and try to reconstruct why we wanted, certain provisions in the regulations.
Excellent.
And then the other thing is just on the policy committee, we will, as Deputy Chief Tate mentioned, we will be meeting tomorrow morning with her and with Sergeant Spielman. And we really appreciate the collaboration and cooperation. So I was glad to hear that you raised the idea of there being a dedicated member that would be very efficient going forward.
All right, and I would just say on budget and metrics, I'd like to use this, if I could, as an opportunity to ask staff to pull a few items that are noted in the legislative agenda item related to the budget and this recent city council meeting. One is the contract with Edgeworth, $850,000. I believe this was for the ALPR, and I think this number significantly exceeds the estimated budget that was included originally in with respect to ALPR. So I wanted to take a look at that. And then I'd also like to have pulled the I saw it in here, the improvements needed to manage overtime and security work for outside entities, item 33, the audit recommendations. This topic relates to something that our public commenter addressed, as well as some of the questions that we just had by members of the board, and does relate to a very significant budget issue. So would appreciate your pulling that, and thank you for including this information in the legislative. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I got word yesterday that the council approved the early intervention appropriation. So I think that this raises a question to the board about how we would like to proceed when it comes to updating and working with the department on the policy that has to do with
Excuse me, what did it approve?
the appropriation for the early intervention system and the overhaul of that system from what it currently is, which is a randomized system that doesn't actually effectively prevent or identify instances where misconduct could occur or where we can better our police services to the community. So I think that we have to ask if this policy should be held and housed within the policy subcommittee, or if we will continue to use me as liaison, because what I foresee is that there will be plenty of meetings that need to happen with the association and with the department to figure out how to update this policy. And so I think that the way our current policy subcommittee works, it would take a lot of time using that policy. And so we have to figure out a way to not streamlined.
Well, we
but
can always add you to the policy subcommittee. Board
I am
Member
on the policy subcommittee.
Kayatano.
But I think the question I guess I'm asking is how would we use that subcommittee to then liaise with the department and the association as well? Or would that be a separate inquiry? But I think that I just want to put it on the subcommittee's radar because we have a lot of things that are building up. And we will end the vehicle pursuit policy update soon. So that might be the next thing that needs to happen if we're going to implement this on a schedule.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this topic or any others about subcommittees? If not, we're gonna move forward on the agenda to new business, agenda item number 9 and 9A is continued discussion and action, related to the interconnection between specialized care unit and BPD. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish reading it, go to 9B. Discussion and action on the July 18th Community Forum at the Hope Center.
Okay, Mr. Chair, as I noted earlier, the Hope Center which is a few blocks away from here, has invited the board to present their report. They did indicate though they don't intend for the broader community to be there, just because of the bandwidth. So what we're seeking here is to try to coordinate this, find out who the delegates will be. That doesn't trigger a Brown Act meeting. And we can relay that information back and just organize this a little bit more. And right now, the topic is the purpose for this community forum was centered around the annual report. But if you want to have a more broader discussion or different discussion, then that's something we could potentially discuss tonight.
What I was thinking when I heard our intern speak very capably about the plan for the use of force policy community meetings is just based on the historical look at participation reflected in our annual report, our attendance at our meeting irrespective of location and irrespective of in-person or online. I'm concerned that we're going to struggle to have good attendance at our community meetings. So I'm thinking that it might not be wise to try to have multiple community meetings on very discrete topics. So I'm thinking that we should probably have a series of community meetings and address use of force, the annual report, whatever it is that we feel would be engaging and informative for the community. I'm thinking that might be a better approach. That's all I want to say.
We could just bring, as part of the engagement subcommittee and following, board member Blackaby's lead, I think that's something that I'll bring up to him and see where he lands on that. My thoughts on that is our engagement and attendance are low, and that's an issue. So I'd like to find ways on how to boost them and how to find ways to bring the public and community in on these meetings, but most importantly, on our community forums. So there's ways, we've had draws, the community does come out when they feel like there's something they want to hear about. I think that's our responsibility to get them in their seats.
So I agree about increasing and boosting our participation in the community and finding ways to outreach. Does the Hope Center direct the topics that we are to address, or are they inviting us to just set our own agenda? I guess I didn't understand the context for that.
Sure.
Who are they? I'm not familiar actually with the,
Sure. So they're a nonprofit organization. They're probably a block and a half from the North Berkeley Center. They provide holistic services to individuals that are unhoused. They have in the past also invited us, the office, to meet with their community members to do a sort of know your rights discussion and what to expect in police encounters. So we've been fostering that relationship. And after the retreat, when we discussed about taking the annual report and the reports on the road, this is one of the organizations that I considered, and I reached out to them, and initially that contact was to talk about the annual report, but again, if we want to broaden it, I think that's acceptable. I don't know that they're not being necessarily limiting the board. I think they're welcoming, a conversation and more information about the work that's being done here. I would say though, with the use of force, I think it is important because this is not a broader community discussion, that we still have, the more open community, meetings, because this one again is not gonna be Brown active, so, they're limiting it to only the community members that are there, the residents and staff, so.
Are there any-
don't think I understand the significance of your last comment, that just that it's not a community meeting because it's only open to people that live there.
Right, so I would say, and I don't know that you were suggesting this, but I'm just saying that, I would not, we would still go through with, we can certainly discuss use of force there, but that would not be the extent of what we're gonna be doing this summer, because we wanna make sure that we're inviting individuals for all the districts of the, meeting, so.
No, I was just merely saying for the multiple community meetings that we have planned for this summer
Okay.
would address multiple topics. And I think that will increase interest in these meetings. That's all I was saying.
Okay.
Anything else on the subject and topic at this time? I know we gotta get some information together. Who's gonna get involved? I think we're open on the topic, so that's good. Is anybody open and available for July 18th? And I know we're missing 3 members, but of the 4 of us here, is there 2 of us who have an interest in July 18th?
I think I can do it. I'm not sure, but I think I'll try.
Are we able to just coordinate, offline about?
100%.
About an agenda for this, okay?
100%. And also, I'll have a little bit of interest. That's only the back board member kind of time if they can't make it.
You know, if they let me recite my, my rules for the bar, then I'm happy to attend, but no, I would be happy.
Beautiful. Directors, with that information, can we do the rest of this offline and get ourselves together for this program?
Yeah, could you just designate board member Cayetano as the lead, just to keep it clean?
I can sure do that. I'd like to designate board member Cayetano as our point person, liaison.
For July 18th or for all of
For
them?
July 18th.
Okay, sure. So so moved. Or seconded.
Okay,
Do we have to vote on it? No.
We,
All right, let's.
do we do. We have to vote on
it's a
everything.
quorum issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Board Member Cayetano, on the motion to designate, Board Member Cayetano for the July 18th.
Yes. If I abstain, then we can't vote on it, yes.
Board Member Leftwich,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson,
Yes.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
motion carries.
Excellent. This brings us to new business 9C on the agenda, which is discussion and action on my proposal for the PAB to initiate a policy review of computer voice stress analysis technology and its use by the BPD. So I don't know if you guys have caught the letter that I had sent. I know it's within the packet. But basically what we're saying here is we'd like more information on not only the technology, but its uses here in our community and really any and all things about it. So I'm asking you for your support and an action to pick up this policy review.
Yeah, my understanding of your letter was that you want to take up
That's me. It's
the
gonna be
policy
me.
investigation,
Yeah.
which I fully support. I also, I mean, I will say that I read again the Chronicle and I looked into some of the case law around it, and I am concerned about the continued use of it. I think it's interesting also that they use it, that departments nationwide use it for hiring, in addition to investigations when it's been, so discredited by different experts. And I'm less concerned with the ways that the department hires staff, but I think it is of interest to the board and to the community how we hire as well as how we investigate. So I think in both contexts, I would be interested in the report there.
I'll make a motion to approve the chair's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, so on the motion to approve the chair's recommendation, Board Member Cayetano,
Yes.
Board Member Leftwich,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Yes.
And Chair Moore,
Yes.
the motion carries.
And that takes us to agenda item number 2, which is public comment.
Okay, as a reminder, speakers are generally allotted up to 3 minutes, but maybe allotted less time if there are many speakers. They may comment on any matter within the board's jurisdiction at this time, except confidential personnel matters. Once again, I'll start with those physically present first before moving on to virtual public comment. At this time, would anyone like to provide public comment?
I just love to see what kind of, involvement the PAB has in the budgeting process itself and the evaluations of efficiencies. You know, it seems like when I was on the police review commission, we raised the issue, but it didn't go anywhere. Question is, how does do the goals of the department, the annual goals, how are they reflected in the budget choices that are being made? And what is the evaluation? When I read, whatever's given to the public, it's sort of like a cartoon version of what's actually happening. But, you know, it's a description of like, they picked 3 things they did last year and they say they did it really well. But I'm curious about proactively, what are the metrics of efficiency? Are you looking at how many cases were referred for prosecution? How many investigations happening? What's the closure rates? You know, what are some of the tangible metrics that can be used to evaluate whether or not the police department is doing what you're paying a bunch of money to have them do? And so this whole, you know, slap somebody's back and say, great job, like they do with the city council, you know, that's good for the newspapers, but it doesn't really do me as a citizen of Berkeley trying to live safely in my community much good. I'm just curious, what are the real things? And when does the public ever get summoned in here? Like you're talking about, yeah, let's have the public talk about use of force. Let's have the public, we started a reimagining process. When are we gonna have the report back to the public in a way that's not just we're having a meeting and you can come to it, but how about we're gonna go to you? We're gonna go to where you are. We're gonna make this maximally convenient for you. So yeah, it feels like when you're spending $90 million, you gotta have a purpose. How are the training priorities of the police department? Like, what are you training them to do? What's the priority? If the priority is investigation, I'd like to see some professional development that was about investigations. If the priority was community relations, let's see some trainings around community relations. You know, but there's no correlation between that. As far as I was ever able to discern, the police gotta go, hey, guys, let's go do the active shooter training again. That one's fun. We'll go for beers afterwards. We get paid a bunch of money to do it. But it's like a total disconnect. So I would encourage you to really put your heads in the budget maybe next year, because the horse is already out of the barn at this point, but maybe next year.
Thank you. At this time, I will now move on to virtual public comment. If you're attending over Zoom, if you'd like to provide public comment, now is your opportunity. Please use the raise hand icon. Again, if you'd like to provide virtual public comment, now is the opportunity. Chair, at this time, I don't see any raised hands.
And that takes us to agenda item number 11, closed session.
For those attending virtually, you may remain in the webinar. The recording, video and audio will be paused, but we will be returning to announce closed session actions.
That marks the end of closed session, which brings us to agenda item number 12, which is the announcement of closed session actions. We have accepted 2 of the office staff's recommendations. And we have deferred the third for our next meeting on July 10th. And that takes us to agenda item 13. Can I get someone to give me a motion?
To adjourn? So moved.
Second. Board Member Wilson.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone.